Like and subscribe on the way in the door, people. Today, this video is sort of a request. Probably won't deliver it exactly how he asked for it because, you know, this channel is primarily talking about the 90s and 90s culture and whatnot. But shout out to GTV, the One Man Army, 5433. And he asked, can you do a video on Will Smith being the king of the box office in the 2000s? I feel like he's surprisingly not getting his dues in being one of the last true movie stars. Plus his name is getting dragged for reasons I'll not explain. I wouldn't request it with it being predominantly a B-ball channel, but I saw the thumbnail and video of Martin Lawrence, so I figured you check this out. And yeah, again, shout out to GTV, the One Man Army, 5433. I appreciate the request. Now, what I am gonna do is I'm gonna talk more about his 90s career, because I feel like, again, you know, Will Smith, I would probably argue, was still more iconic in the 90s. You know, I think some of his biggest, most notable movies took place in the 90s, and obviously we had The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So let's talk about Will Smith, and I may or may not touch on the other stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. If I don't touch on it, I actually may do a video on it because, like I said, this channel is supposed to be about other things, and I do want to touch on relationships and that kind of stuff. And, you know, hopefully give some perspective, especially for younger people who may be watching the channel. You know, I hope that you gain some inspiration from it. But anyway, let's get into Will Smith in the 90s. And why Will Smith was one of the greatest in the 90s. Again, for people in my generation, you probably first encountered Will Smith with what I would label as his first rap career with, what was it, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And unfortunately, we've all been re-exposed to Parents Just Don't Understand. That was one of the first songs that I remember from Will Smith, you know, being young. And, you know, unfortunately, Jada Pinkett Smith, just reposted that song with her and Tupac dancing to it. Yeah, okay. But yeah, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and he had you know, songs like I'm too damn hype, and what else did they have? What was it called? Nightmare on My Street, where he kind of did something about, you know, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were popular around that time, and so they did a song, kind of a play on that. Somebody remember the exact name of that song? Drop it in the comments for me. I think it might have been called Nightmare on My Street, though. But anyway, so for those of you who grew up around that era like I did, that's probably your first encounter with Will Smith. And back in those days, that is, as far as musically, that is the Will Smith that I preferred. Like, I liked the early stuff of Will Smith, the DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince stuff. I liked that stuff. Now, in the 90s, to me, what happened is in the 90s, that's when Will became a TV star, a movie star, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And to me, when that happened, musically, you know, Will Smith became so image conscious, trying to be this, have this squeaky clean image that his music became really cheesy to me in the 90s. You know, to me, it lost something musically. Like I said, you know, he didn't want to cuss and all this stuff. It was about his image. But so the music for me in the 90s of Will Smith went downhill. But now his TV career and movie career took off. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is definitely another one of those shows that I would say is part of 90s culture, but I probably would say I don't think it influenced the culture as much as the Martin Lawrence show. But I definitely think it's one of those shows that if you're talking about shows that were prevalent in the 90s, you have to mention the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I don't know if it's anybody who didn't love that show. And to me, that show was great because it touched on a lot of aspects as far as the dynamic of a lot of different dynamics of black life in America. So, you know, you got Will Smith, whose character was from West Philly, who's supposed to have the more hard edge, you know, going to stay with his cousins and uncles in Bel Air. And, you know, a lot of the topics of that show to me dealt a lot with that. It's almost like you know, the keeping it real versus selling out kind of subject matter that a lot of times, you know, that comes up often in the black experience. It's like, you know, how far do you go trying to assimilate before, you know, you've gone too far? And how, you know, how much are you trying to keep it real so that you don't allow yourself to advance in society? You know, I feel like it's always that juggling act. And the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, to me, touched on a lot of those topics pretty often. But they also dealt with other topics that were just real to the human experience. You know, I think one episode that we can all remember is the episode where Will's dad was trying to come back into his life, and Will was excited about it. And, of course, his dad wound up leaving again. And the famous scene of Will crying, and it was a heart-wrenching scene. And then, you know, I think later it came out that Will was actually thinking about, you know, the relationship between him and his real father. So, you know, Will kind of really went there and really broke down in that scene, and you could feel it through the TV screen. And but on top of that, you know, a lot of cameos on Will Smith from 90s culture, a lot of music stars, a lot of other actors. I think I remember Robin Givens probably making an appearance on there. You know, who else? I'm drawing a blank right now. Hey, so if y'all remember a lot of the people who made cameos on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, drop it in the comments. But did Halle Berry make an appearance on there? I may be thinking about something else. But anyway, I'm not gonna waste time trying to figure it out on the video. But like I said, y'all remember a lot of the people who made cameos on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Please drop those in the comments. So yes. And so, like I said, you know, it touched on a lot of topics that were, I would say, unique to the black experience, but it also touched on a lot of topics that was just the human experience. And on top of that, so the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air being such a huge show in the 90s, and like I said, I think when that show happened, to me, Will became more image conscious, and he also, you know, became a huge movie star in the 90s. Now, let's talk about some of the movies that Will Smith was a part of in the 90s. One of the biggest ones, I think, was Independence Day. And I'm sure you all remember that movie. But that's a great movie. I love that movie, and I still like to watch it from time to time. But the Bad Boys series started in the 90s. And I dare say, I kind of wish they wouldn't have made that third one where Will and especially Martin Lawrence, you could tell that they're quite a bit older. And to me, it was hard to capture that same vibe that the first two had. But one thing I want to talk about, and y'all chime in on this. For those of you who grew up in the 90s, chime in on this. Let me know what you think about this. So one thing I want to say about the very first Bad Boys is, to me, the very first Bad Boys, Martin Lawrence was more the star of the very first Bad Boys. To me, when that first Bad Boys happened, Martin was definitely the bigger star of the two. And by the second Bad Boys, Will had kind of, made his ascension, and, it was more of an equal partnership, or more of an equal presence in the movie, I should say. Or maybe I would say by then, the public probably viewed Will Smith as just as big a star. But to me, on that very first Bad Boy movie, Martin was clearly the bigger star. And to me, I felt like Martin carried that movie more so than Will Smith. But by the second movie, like I said, I think it felt more even. It felt more balance of star power. But anyway, that's just how I feel about it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that in the comments. But anyway, more movies that Will Smith was on in the 90s. Another one of my favorites, Enemy of the State. That was a great movie. And the Men in Black series started in the 90s. And I'm a fan of sci-fi movies and that kind of stuff as well. So another great movie from Will Smith. So yeah, I would say in the 90s, Will Smith was he was a big TV star making his ascension into the movie stardom. And like the guy who asked me to do this video said, by the 2000s, Will Smith was just a bona fide megastar as far as movies were concerned. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this in there. Like I said, we're not going to get too in-depth about this, but, while Will was making his ascension in the 90s, to me, in the 90s, he also made a fatal mistake. And in the 90s is also when he met Jada, and they wound up getting together, But like I said, we'll get into that in another video. But yeah, so all these things happened in the 90s, people. A lot of great things, but Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Tupac, Michael Jordan. Like I said, 90s R&B, which I'm gonna get into some of those 90s artists individually, so I can talk about them more in depth. But all these things were happening in the 90s. And like I said, by the 2000s, Will Smith was a bona fide, movie star, movie megastar. Like the guy mentioned, I guess I never really thought about it because, and I'm a sidetrack for a minute. Y'all let me know what you think about this as well in the comments. For me, movies just don't seem as well written today. So, into the age we live in, it's normally hard for me to find movies that I just can really get into. I feel like storylines and characters aren't really developed as well in modern movies, and it more relies on the cinematography and special effects and that kind of thing. But it's just not well-written stories. So, I'm probably not a good person to actually speak on this because, as far as movie stars in current times, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you, who who are the mega stars of the time we're living in. But for me, and like the guy said who asked me to do the video, you know, Will Smith actually probably is one of the last movie megastars of that caliber. And, you know, part of it is, I don't want to make this video too long, but I would do want to say part of it is the fact that we live in a time today where celebrity has been devalued because of social media. It's like in some way, shape, or form, everybody has access to celebrities. And because of things like YouTube and Instagram, it's like your average person has access to gaining a certain amount of celebrity themselves. So to me, being a celebrity doesn't hold as much weight as it used to because of social media, because everyone has access to each other. You know, this is going, you know, even the fact that, you know, someone like Gilbert Arenas and Dreamers Pro having a back and forth, you know, without something like YouTube, that kind of interaction probably never would have happened. So, you know, to me, social media has kind of erased the divide between celebrity and regular people, and therefore devaluing what it means to be a celebrity. Because, like I said, you know, you have YouTube stars, you know, who are arguably more popular than some celebrities. So that's another reason why I'm not sure we'll ever see movie stars as big as they used to be back in the day. You know, like, you know, Will Smith was just like that guy for a while, you know, especially like you were saying, the early 2000s, Will Smith was that guy. But, you know, even before him, you know, people like Denzel, you know, people like Samuel Jackson, people like Morgan Freeman, you know, all these people who just were mega stars. Or, you know, even when you're talking about your Brad Pitts and people like that, your Johnny Depps, you know, I don't know if we have stars of that caliber anymore because of social media, because of that line between celebrity and regular people kind of being erased. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Will Smith was definitely iconic in the 90s. He was definitely a mega star by the early 2000s. And but like I said, definitely can't mention 90s culture without mentioning Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And like I said, that combined with other things that we've talked about, you know, is part of why the 90s was such a great time to be alive. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If there are some things about Will Smith in the 90s that I left out, please drop them in the comments. If there's some movies that I left out, because I definitely didn't get to them all, please drop them in the comments. And yeah, let me know what y'all think about early Will Smith music versus the music he kind of started doing in the 90s. Like I said, do you agree with me that when he kind of reemerged in the 90s musically, he was really protecting his image? So to me, his music got, you know, pretty cheesy. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. You all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.